At the height of his power, a central banker could stabilize markets with a single sentence. His words moved trillions of dollars before markets even opened. Governments waited for his signals. Investors studied his pauses. Entire economies adjusted to his tone. Then one morning, those words stopped mattering. Payments failed. ATMs froze, prices vanished. Contracts became meaningless, and overnight, the most powerful force in human civilization, money, ceased to function. Not slowly, not theoretically, but all at once. The shocking twist is this: when money disappears, it doesn't just erase wealth, it erases order, authority, and the rules that hold society together. And history shows this is not a fantasy. It's a recurring pattern, one we may be closer to than we think. Money feels permanent because we've never lived without it. But money is not a natural law. It's a social agreement enforced by trust, systems, and belief. When those break, money doesn't weaken, it dies. To understand what would happen if money disappeared tomorrow, we need to trace how money came to dominate human life, how it has collapsed before, and why modern alternatives like crypto emerged, not from innovation alone, but from fear of that collapse happening again. The story begins before coins, before banks, before numbers on screens. Early societies traded directly grain for tools, livestock for labor. Barter worked only in small groups, where trust was personal and needs aligned. The moment societies grew larger, barter failed. You couldn't carry value across time or distance. You couldn't store trust. So humans invented money, not to get rich, but to coordinate survival. Gold, silver, shells, salt, anything scarce, durable, and widely accepted became money. These systems worked because value was visible. You could hold it, you could test it, you could hide it, but they were slow, heavy, and dangerous to transport. As trade expanded, money evolved again. Empires introduced coinage, stamped with authority. The face of a ruler wasn't decoration, it was a guarantee. The coin was worth something because the state said so, and the state had power to enforce it. Taxes were demanded in that currency. Soldiers were paid in it. Law was denominated in it. Money and power fused. This worked until it didn't. History is littered with monetary collapses that began the same way. States spent more than they could extract. Wars drained treasuries. Rulers debased coins, reducing precious metal content while keeping face value the same. Prices rose. Trust fell. Eventually, coins became symbols, not stores of value. The Roman Empire learned this lesson the hard way. As currency collapsed, trade slowed, taxes failed, armies weakened, and political authority fractured. Money didn't just disappear, it took the empire with it. Fast forward centuries, and paper money solved the transport problem. It represented value instead of containing it. At first, paper was backed by gold. Then it wasn't. Governments realized something powerful. If money was belief-based, controlling belief meant controlling money. Central banks were born to manage that belief. For a while, it worked brilliantly. Modern fiat money allowed explosive growth. Credit expanded. Infrastructure scaled. Global trade exploded. Money became digital, frictionless, invisible. Most people stopped thinking about it entirely. It just worked until it didn't. The breaking point always comes the same way. Too much money chasing too few real goods. Governments run deficits. Central banks print to stabilize crises. Debt piles up. At first, inflation feels manageable, then it accelerates. Confidence cracks. People rush to spend money before it loses value. Velocity spikes. The system feeds on itself. We've seen this before. Weimar Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Yugoslavia, Lebanon. In each case, money didn't disappear physically. It disappeared functionally. People still had cash, but it was useless. Prices changed hourly. Contracts meant nothing. Savings were wiped out. Barter returned. Foreign currencies took over. Social order degraded fast. What's always shocking is the speed. Money systems don't collapse gradually at the end. They collapse suddenly after a long period of denial. Trust is binary. It holds until it doesn't. So what happens if money disappears tomorrow? The first thing that breaks isn't wealth. It's coordination. The moment money stops working, prices vanish. Without prices, markets can't function. Stores don't know what to charge. Suppliers don't know what to demand. Labor doesn't know what it's worth. Every decision becomes negotiation. That slows everything. Then payments fail, salaries don't arrive, rent can't be paid, loans can't be serviced. Banks close not because they're empty, but because numbers on screens no longer represent reality. Credit cards stop working. Digital wallets freeze. The invisible infrastructure of modern life collapses. Next comes supply chain paralysis. Trucks don't move without fuel contracts. Ships don't unload without payment guarantees. Warehouses don't release goods without invoices. Even if food exists, it doesn't flow. Cities depend on daily deliveries. Within days, shelves empty. Not from scarcity, but from breakdown of trust. At this stage, governments step in. They impose price controls, emergency currencies, rationing systems. History shows these rarely work. Price controls create shortages. Emergency money lacks credibility. Rationing invites black markets. The more force applied, the more parallel systems emerge. People adapt fast. Barter returns, but inefficiently. Skills become currency. Food, medicine, fuel, and security become stores of value. Communities rely on informal trust networks. Those with access to real goods gain power fast. Inequality spikes, not because some have more money, but because some have leverage. Violence doesn't explode immediately. It grows selectively. Theft increases where enforcement weakens. Organized groups fill gaps left by institutions. Control over distribution becomes more valuable than ownership of assets. History shows that when money fails, logistics becomes king. Over time, something replaces money. It always does. Foreign currency circulates. Commodities become units of account. Digital systems emerge. In recent decades, something new entered the story: crypto. Crypto wasn't created to make people rich. It was created after the 2008 financial crisis by people who no longer trusted banks, governments, or central authorities to manage money responsibly. Bitcoin's origin story is not technological or political, a response to bailouts, inflation, and centralized control. In a world where money disappears, crypto offers something radical: value without permission. No central issuer, no bank required, no state backing, just code, consensus, and scarcity enforced by math. In theory, this solves the trust problem. You don't need to trust an institution, you trust the system, but theory meets reality fast. Crypto depends on electricity, internet access, and hardware. In a total collapse, those aren't guaranteed. Volatility makes pricing difficult. Adoption requires coordination. And most importantly, crypto doesn't solve distribution of real goods. You can't eat code. You can't heat homes with hashes. So crypto wouldn't replace money overnight, but it could coexist with other systems as trust rebuilt. We've already seen early versions of this. In collapsing economies, people use a mix of foreign cash, mobile payments, stablecoins, barter, and favors. No single system dominates at first. Over time, whatever best restores predictability wins. The key is predictability. Money exists to reduce uncertainty. When it fails, any system that restores predictability of value, exchange, and enforcement becomes money. Modern parallels should make this uncomfortable. Today, over 90% of money exists digitally. Physical cash is a backup, not the system. Central banks have expanded balance sheets by tens of trillions in a little over a decade. Global debt exceeds global GDP by a wide margin. Payment systems are centralized, synchronized, and fragile. At the same time, alternatives are emerging not because they're perfect, but because trust is thinning. Crypto adoption spikes in countries with inflation. Stablecoins are used where banks fail. Digital payment rails outpace traditional systems in unstable regions. These are not tech trends, they're survival strategies. The pattern is repeating. Confidence fuels money. Crisis erodes confidence. Alternatives rise. Authorities respond. The cycle continues. But here's the most important part most people miss. Money doesn't disappear equally for everyone. Those with assets, skills, networks, and mobility adapt faster. Those dependent on fixed incomes, centralized systems, or single currencies suffer most. Collapse redistributes power brutally and fast. This isn't speculation, it's documented history. When money dies, contracts reset, debts evaporate or become unenforceable. This is why collapses are both terrifying and transformative. They destroy the old order and create space for new ones. The question isn't whether money could disappear tomorrow. The question is, what form of money survives the next shock? Because the real danger isn't collapse, it's denial. Every major monetary failure was preceded by confidence, by experts insisting the system was sound, by institutions too invested to admit fragility, by populations too dependent to question stability. Money doesn't die from attack, it dies from overuse. So where does this leave us? We live in a world where money is faster, larger, and more abstract than ever, where trust is centralized, where alternatives are growing, where shocks are more frequent, where resilience is uneven. If money disappeared tomorrow, society wouldn't end. It would reorganize painfully, unevenly, and unpredictably. Some systems would fail, others would emerge, and eventually, something new would be called money. 3 takeaways stand out. First, money is not value. It's a coordination tool. When it fails, value doesn't vanish, relocates. Second, trust is the real currency. Systems that preserve trust survive longer than those that maximize efficiency. Third, alternatives like cryptocurrency replace money by choice. They emerge when people lose faith in existing systems. The warning is simple and uncomfortable. The more complex and centralized a monetary system becomes, the more fragile it is to loss of trust. The open-ended question is this: when the next shock hits and history says it will, what form of money will people trust first? If this breakdown helped you see money not as a constant, but as a fragile agreement, consider subscribing for more deep dives into economics, power, and the systems shaping our future. Because the most important changes don't happen when money disappears, they happen when people realize it can't.